Marcus Webb wiped the grease from his hands onto his worn blue coveralls and stared at the sleek, white jet sitting on the private tarmac of Harlow Airport. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also, tell us in the comments where in the world are you watching from. The morning sun bounced off its polished exterior, like it was trying to blind anyone who dared look too long. Beside him, his 7-year-old daughter Lily tugged at his sleeve, her small fingers sticky from the lollipop she'd been eating since they arrived. Marcus worked as a ground maintenance technician at the airport, not the glamorous side, not the side with champagne lounges and leather seats, but the side with oil stains, early mornings, and a paycheck that barely covered rent. He had requested this early shift specifically so he could bring Lily in before school. Let her watch the planes, her favorite thing in the whole world. What he hadn't planned on was finding something that would turn this ordinary morning into the most terrifying hour of his life. It had started simply enough. While conducting a routine inspection near the private hangar, Marcus had noticed something that made his stomach drop. The fuel line connector on the left engine of the Harlow G7, a luxury private jet registered to billionaire, industrialist Richard Calloway, was fractured. Not cracked, fractured. A hairline split running along the primary seal, deep enough that under the pressure and heat of full throttle, it wouldn't hold. He had seen something similar 6 years ago during his training. That jet never made it off the runway. Marcus had immediately flagged it with his supervisor, a heavy-set man named Derek, who was more interested in keeping the private clients happy than grounding their $500,000 aircraft. "You sure about this?" Derek had asked, squinting at the report form Marcus had already started filling out. "Absolutely," Marcus had said. "That seal cannot take liftoff pressure. It will rupture." Derek had looked at the jet, then at the 2 black SUVs pulling up to the tarmac, then back at Marcus. "Calloway's flying to London in 40 minutes. He's got a 9-figure deal closing today. I'll have someone look at it after." Marcus had felt the fury rise in his chest like hot water. "After isn't going to work, Derek. After means after it explodes." Derek had already walked away. So Marcus did something his quiet nature had never allowed him to do before. He walked past the boundary rope. He walked past the uniformed security guards who shouted at him to stop. He walked across the gleaming tarmac with Lily's hand in his daughter asking why everyone was yelling, his heart pounding so hard he could feel it in his ears. Richard Calloway stood at the foot of the jet's stairs, silver-haired and perfectly dressed, surrounded by 3 assistants, all talking at once. He turned when he heard the commotion and looked at Marcus the way powerful men often look at people like Marcus, as though they were an inconvenience rather than a human being. "Sir, don't get on that jet," Marcus said, his voice steady despite everything shaking inside him. "It's going to explode. The fuel line connector on the left engine is fractured. I've filed a report, but no one is listening to me and there isn't time to argue about this." Calloway looked him up and down, the coveralls, the grease on his forearms, the little girl holding his hand with wide brown eyes. He let out a short laugh. "Who are you?" "I'm the man who just found the fault that will kill you," Marcus said. Calloway's head of security stepped forward immediately. "Sir, this man crossed a restricted line. We need to remove him." "Please," Lily said suddenly in her small, clear voice. Everyone stopped. She was looking directly at Calloway, completely unafraid. "My daddy knows about planes. He knows everything about planes. Please just check it." Something shifted on Calloway's face. Perhaps it was the child. Perhaps it was the absolute certainty in her eyes. He raised one hand and his team fell silent. He looked at Marcus for a long moment, then said quietly to his head of security, "Get the engineer." 40 seconds later, the airport's senior engineer was crouched beneath the left engine with a flashlight. 30 seconds after that, he stood up pale-faced and called out 2 words that carried across the tarmac like a gunshot. "Ground it." The jet was grounded. Calloway stood very still. His assistants had stopped talking. The security guard who had been ready to remove Marcus now looked at the ground, 12 minutes later, as the replacement aircraft was being arranged and engineers swarmed the grounded jet, a secondary check confirmed what Marcus had reported. The SEAL would not have survived liftoff. There would have been no warning, no time to react. The explosion would have occurred at approximately 300 feet. Everyone on board would have died. Richard Calloway walked over to Marcus, who was sitting on a bench near the hangar with Lily leaning against his shoulder, both of them quiet and still. Calloway sat down beside them, which seemed to surprise even himself. He didn't speak for a moment. Then he said, "Why did you keep pushing when no one believed you?" Marcus looked at his daughter, then back at the man. "Because being right and staying quiet makes you just as responsible as being wrong," he said. "And because I have a little girl watching everything I do." Calloway nodded slowly. He looked at Lily. "Your father is a remarkable man," he said. Lily nodded, completely matter of fact. "I know," she said. Marcus was not fired. He was promoted. The fault in the system, not just the mechanical one, but the human one, the one where money and status decided who got heard, was investigated. Derek was removed from his position, and Richard Calloway, a man who had spent his life surrounded by people paid to agree with him, quietly made a substantial, anonymous donation to the airport's maintenance training fund, because a man in blue coveralls and his 7-year-old daughter had reminded him what courage actually looks like. If this story touched your heart, please show your love and support for more powerful and meaningful stories. Like this one, like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Kindness True Stories, because real strength doesn't wear a suit, and real courage doesn't wait for permission.